who came all this way from France. Actually, his flight was in this morning. I think he's leaving tomorrow. He's a
1 month from now.
Oh, okay, I was close. He's an active member of the SF Python community. He gave a talk at last year's PyBay, and it's his last meetup in SF for a while, and we'll surely miss him. So with that, let's give it up to Yann.
All right, what are the two hardest problems in computing? Naming and caching, right. Tonight we won't be talking about caching or caching. I don't know how to pronounce it. Caching, thank you very much. I learned something new. Who else? No one, oh dang it. So, before I start getting into naming things, let me introduce you on why you should worry about naming things. Let's do an analogy first. Several years ago when I was still learning English, I used to do not that many mistakes, but one mistake I would do all the time would be I would spell I in lowercase. I wouldn't do I with a capital, I would do it in lowercase. So I asked a friend, how do you deal with this? And the answer was, just do it all the time. When we're chatting on MSN Messenger at the time, you always do this. Just do it always, and then it will come to you that you will do it in your exams, and you won't get downgraded because of that. So just a little word of advice to not ignore this just because you're practicing Python, right? Even if you're just starting out, just don't dismiss that as a way, oh, I'm not doing an important program right now, so I won't worry about naming. I will just name everything X's and Y's. So when do we name things correctly? All the time. So a few tips quickly that you can use. Use more than one letter. So don't name your variable X, Y. Don't name it ham, spam, foo, bar. That's not very helpful. Yes, that happens a lot. Do spend a little bit amount of time to think, okay, so this variable contains speeds, and this variable contains times. And when someone comes to help you, if you have a problem plotting some functions, they can understand when they see plot speed and time that you're trying to plot speed and time, and they don't have to figure out the rest of your program to figure out that, oh, you're trying to plot the speed and time, that's what X and Y were. So do keep that in mind next time you want to go to SF Python project night, like next week, it helps anyone who tries to help you. Another tiny tip for your own standalone programs, use Pro to denote collections, very simple stuff still. And when you're ready to move on to bigger stuff, when you say you're developing your own APIs, and then you can start worrying about other things, like, for instance, you're going to have to put yourselves in your user's position. So don't think about how the function is implementing whatever you want to do. Instead, think of how what the user wants to do. So your user doesn't care that you're sending a filtered request and passing the response. They're just searching products with a query, right? Same thing with in the other direction. Don't be too simplistic. So get element products. What does product designate? You don't know. If you designate by ID, sometimes it's neat to have the specification on the function. So imagine the call size where the user would use this. For instance, I would use get element by ID with a string. So I wouldn't be writing is here, but with a query, I might be writing with query here, not with some random plain data. So a few ideas of how to generally name your functions, your method calls. You can use these elements. So get when you return a value that you obtained, is when you're having a Boolean, fetch when you're retrieving some data, or updates when you're not returning a value but just setting it as state. So you don't have to use this, right? But try not to do something else and then name it this, right? Don't update the state and call it gets, for instance, because that's very confusing to users. So there's, x equals this dot get whatever. Why is x not set? What's going on? So it's very helpful if you follow these conventions. So stick to conventions. So self, don't name self something different. It's very confusing. I is a recognized thing for sequence indices, and Jenny, you want to follow Pepe's styling. So of course you can come up with your own conventions. I don't like Pepe to its fullest. I like it in general, but like some details where I'm like, oh, this is silly. But yeah, in general, try to follow it and try to be consistent. So to make it in short, take time to name things, even when practicing. Follow simple rules or make them up. Just be consistent. Thank you.